Well. I was going to say, hey, it's Goose. I'm here with Maverick. Actually, it's Ryan Otteson. I'm here with a good buddy of mine, Chris Rix. How you doing?
Doing good, Ryan. How about you?
Are you actually good, or are you just saying it?
Actually, I'm not good. I'm great.
Okay.
Yep. It's a throwdown Thursday.
A throwdown Thursday.
My wingman over here.
What are we throwing
Goose.
down?
We're throwing down. We're dropping some demons, and
I love it.
We're dropping down some knowledge and some heart here in the what is it? The One and All Studio. What do you call it? The dojo.
The dojo. No, this is the house that Richard built. No, this is
King Richard.
It's a great. I'm telling you, you've got to see that movie, man. It's phenomenal. You talk about the heart of a man fighting for his family against the world, right? Agree, disagree, but that dude. Watch the movie. It's phenomenal.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm a movie guy.
I know that.
Maybe
about
Monday
you.
night, movie Monday, in the Rix Theater.
Okay.
Might be King Richard.
Okay. I think one of these times we're gonna have to. I don't want to watch a movie, but I want to watch you break down film.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a film room too. It's the Falcon film room. Game film, movies, naps. Got a couple arcade games in there.
Naps.
Yeah, it's a good nap room too.
I like it. Why the Falcon?
Millennium Falcon. It's a Star Wars theme in the theater room
Really?
at home. Yeah, that's my one room in the house.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's your character?
Luke Skywalker.
Always Luke.
I mean the Savior.
Really?
What's my first son's name?
Luke.
Yeah.
Sure.
51% biblical, 49% Star Wars.
100%.
That's right.
Yeah.
Skywalker.
No, I like that.
Gospel on film. Some people say Lord of the Rings. Some say The Hobbit, Narnia. Some good ones.
Those are good.
But Star Wars. I mean, you got, Anakin, Lucifer. Wants to be all powerful. Falls. He's all powerful Jedi.
Yeah.
Becomes Darth Vader. Luke Skywalker, the Savior, comes. You got Obi-Wan, kind of John the Baptist.
Yeah.
You
I liked you before. I might love you now. Bringing Star Wars in instead of Narnia or Lord of the Rings.
That's right.
But I would agree. I think that is a very, very biblical story that doesn't get enough credit for that.
Well, all the greatest stories are, they take the best messages and themes from the Bible.
From the story.
Right?
That's
right. All the greatest movies, Star Wars, George Lucas, he says it was from mythology and a lot of things were from the Bible.
I did hear somewhere that all stories draw from the great story, right? Mm-hmm. And all
the greatest story ever told.
You have a villain in your story, right? Because Christ had a villain in his story.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting. I love that. You mentioned a word in there. You said the heart.
Yeah.
How's your heart?
Heart is full.
Heart
is full.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
You like
healing as well.
Okay.
Healing as well. As you know, my father passed away just weeks ago.
Yeah.
So the heart is definitely healing and processing, but it is healing.
Good.
And Lord has been sustaining me and Anita and the kids, in this season of life.
Yeah.
Thankful my father knew the Lord. I know where he is. I know I'll see him again. I miss him, but continue to fight, in his memory and his legacy. And I know I'm a part of his legacy.
When your father passed, were you guys close?
Yes. In this past season, we were.
Good.
We were.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. Saw him on his 71st birthday. It was the last time I saw him, January 14th, and he passed away 5 days later on the 19th. So thankful to see him on his birthday with the kids and sing him happy birthday, brought him a gift, had a time of prayer with him. So thankful for that.
How much easier did it make your father passing? And not the cheesy corporate church answer, right? Mm-hmm. But look, loss is loss. And until you experience it close, right? You might lose this person or that person, but until it gets you, right? Mm-hmm. How much easier did it actually make you knowing that your dad was going to heaven?
Oh, all the difference in the world. Anita and I talk about this, my wife, and I'll say it with men and other people. Like, life is hard enough with faith. Like, as a believer, life is hard.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it without faith, without that hope of a parent, a sibling, a spouse. That they don't have that hope that they're going to see them again when Christ returns. It's hard with it. So I often tell people the Christian life is, I think, the hardest life, right? Because of carrying your cross, because of fighting, because of the sacrifice, because of life not being about you.
Yeah.
But it's the greatest life, and it's the most rewarding life, and it's the only way I can live life the rest of my life.
How long ago did you come to Christ?
21 years.
Okay.
August of 2001. So
August
this
of
coming
2001.
summer will be 21 years. Yeah.
Wow.
After my freshman year at Florida State, Pastor Ron Miller, Adrian Crawford, the Champions for Christ ministry, which was really birthed out of the Every Nation Church, which was an international church, but the one at Florida State in Tallahassee is really the one I got plugged into. Pastor Ron Miller really took me under his wing. He was a star basketball player in the 90s with Charlie Ward, Sam Cassell, Bob Sura, these guys. They made the Elite Eight. And instead of going into the NBA, he went into full-time ministry and was a part of the Every Nation Church family at Florida State. And when he first saw me, he tells a story. When I saw Chris Rix, this freshman, cocky quarterback from California. I said, that me, that's right.
That's hard to believe.
Believe it.
I do.
He said, I saw myself. And he said that he heard God say, you've got to take care of this guy. You've got to take him under your wing, get a hold of him. So I went to FCA at Florida State because Coach Bowden said, now, man, there's going to be the FCA after practice. And we didn't know what the FCA was, but he said there's going to be pizza and milk and cookies there. So we're freshman football players, like free food.
Free food, right?
We're going, right? So, and that's where I got to hear guys like Deion Sanders share about their faith, who I didn't even know was a Christian. I knew primetime gold chains and everything.
Yeah, when you told me that a couple weeks ago, my jaw hit the floor.
Yeah, but he was retired from the NFL, had become an ordained minister, and now was sharing his testimony and sharing the word. And he came back to share, and I said, I want to be like Deion as a star athlete, here at Florida State and maybe the NFL, but I just started getting a different vision, hearing guys like Deion Sanders, Ron Miller, Adrian Crawford, Charlie Ward, different people who had played at Florida State, who were stars there, but now talk about life as a husband, as a father, as a man of God. And I say, I want to be like that. And you just start getting a different vision for your life, not just as an athlete, but as a man.
What pulled it? What clicked it? Right? Because look, I'm busting your chops about being a cocky guy coming out of California, right? But you earned it a little bit, right? What did Coach Bowden tell you? First, he doesn't recruit out of the South, and he came to California.
Yeah, that's right. Now, son, I'm coming here to California to recruit you, and it's the first time I come out here. I stay in the South. We in Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama. So if I give you a scholarship, son, you better come.
Yeah.
So when a legend like Coach Bowden, they won the national championship my senior year, they're number one. USC, UCLA is kind of in the middle, the Pac-10 at the time. Paul Hackett at USC is on his way out. They say Bob Toledo at UCLA is on his way out. They recruited me to come in and replace Cade McNown at UCLA. Carson Palmer, who I followed in high school at Santa Margarita. He went on to USC. I came in and played quarterback there. I knew how great he was. So I wasn't going to play for at least a few years. And I wanted to play right away. And just getting to know Bobby Bowden and Coach Mark Richt, another man of God who was recruiting me, who I really built a relationship with, let alone that they were number one in the country. That's why I signed with Florida State. And I thought it was to go there to play football, which it was. I was blessed to start and play there for 4 years. But it was a lot bigger than that.
So you're a senior in high school, local boy.
Yeah.
Right?
San Gabriel Valley, went to Bishop Vermont High School.
Vermont, right? That's where I was going.
96, 97, 98. Was a knucklehead taking shortcuts. So unfortunately, I had to leave after my junior football season. Halfway through my junior year, I had to leave the school. And that's where I transferred to Santa Margarita in South Orange County. But grew up in Arcadia, and then went to Bishop Vermont High School in West Covina.
So when you're acting a fool as a senior in high school, do you know the Lord? Are you a committed follower of Jesus?
No. I was a CEO Christian, as you know. Christmas and Easter only, right?
Sure.
That's when we would go to church growing up. Sometimes on Mother's Day to honor my mom after she passed. She died when I was 7 years old due to cancer. So I was born and raised in New York, as you know, a Yankee.
Let's go Sox.
Come on, Sox. All right. Okay. Hey, not everyone's perfect.
I know. That's why we got Jesus.
That's right. We need him. We need
Red Sox.
So. My mom is diagnosed with cancer at a small hospital in upstate New York, and they say, it's pretty advanced. We recommend that you get her out to this hospital in California called City of Hope. And that's what brought us out here. God bless the people there. I believe they did all they could. But less than a month of getting out here, my mom died. 1989, I'm 7 years old, dies of cancer. And my father made the choice to restart life, kind of hit the refresh button and stay out here on the West Coast. So lived in Seattle for 5 years. My father's really into nature. We lived in Seattle from 89 to 95 and then moved down here to be with my brother, my sister, and other members of my mom's side of the family who had now settled in Southern California.
What happened to your heart? You're a young guy. Mom gets cancer. I mean, you don't know much at 7. I mean, you know stuff, but not much. Did you know then that it was your heart, or did you just feel sad, or did you know that? Like, can you articulate what happened around that time frame?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that wasn't the first big hit in my life.
Okay.
When I was born, my parents weren't married. They were dating, met in 1979 in New York City. I'm born in 81, and things were okay for a little while. I remember, us going to the beach, and I've seen pictures and videos of Carnival Cruise and the Caribbean and New York City and Yankee games and different things that we did for the first few years.
Yeah.
But then unfortunately, my parents separated. My father and mother struggled with alcohol abuse, also some drug abuse, late 70s, early 80s, kind of that hippie movement. My dad went to Woodstock and, was a born-again believer, was actually in ministry before I was born, but then kind of got back into that world, at least with one foot, and unfortunately in an environment with alcohol and with drugs, and it affected my childhood, led to, unfortunately, some abuse in the home with myself, with my mother. And that's where I believe CPS came in, and before you knew it, I was in the foster system. While my parents were in family court, working out who little Chris was going to be with. You have a couple here that's not married, and there's issues at home. So I lived with 2 foster families over the course of about 6 months. They were very nice people. I can remember them. I can remember the smells of the home. I can remember Pop-Tarts in the morning. I can remember oatmeal, cream of wheat, cold mornings in New York. I remember being sad, even at early age, 5, 6 years old, feeling depressed, feeling, is this what life is all about? Where's mom? Where's dad? I want to be home with one of them, right? And
this is all pre-7 years old.
Yes, this is around 4 or 5 years old. So I end up living with my father during the weeks, going to school, with my mother on the weekends, and then shortly after that we get news that she has cancer. So heart's going through a lot of things early on, 4, 5, 6, and then leading up to 7 years old. 1989, Chris Rix, 7 years old, life isn't looking too great.
So heart comes at you early, or heart damage of your heart comes after you early, 4 to 6.
Up and downs.
Mom passes at 7. Another attack on your heart, right?
Yes.
Then suddenly you're dragged up to Washington, dragged down the coast, right? Your dad's just trying to do as best as he can, right? We were talking earlier. I think the camera was rolling, and nobody said. And this is what I was going to ask you too. Is when you came to Christ, nobody said, "Hey, Chris, you came to Christ, sunshine and rainbows now." Right. But that's the perception. So you're a senior in high school. What all did you know, could you even tangibly express that there was some faith-based components to you going to Florida State, or was it all football?
Well, backing up a little bit, if we go look at 1990-91, I'm in a private Catholic school in Seattle. I remember getting baptized, I believe, in 2nd grade. We saw pictures of it. I'm getting baptized in the church there. My father's on his knee. I'm in the big tub. I'm being submerged by the priest.
Okay.
So, and my father planted big seeds. We would always pray at night. He'd read me Bible stories. I watched the 10 Commandments so many times growing up. It's still one of my favorite movies. I just showed it to Luke and Bobby and Chrissy recently.
Okay.
Thought maybe they could handle a 3-hour movie. A
3-hour old movie. Right? We just went through your love of Star Wars.
It is good. I mean, Prince of Egypt is great, and they've seen that many times.
Okay.
But this is another level, tells a little bit more of the story, and I just love
Charlton Heston. Come on.
That's why they brought him in Wayne's World too. Remember?
Of course.
The guy in the gas station couldn't deliver the lines great, and they, Mike Myers, can we get a real actor? And they bring in Charlton Heston, just changes it.
It's over.
So and let alone Yul Brynner. I mean, Ramses. One of the greatest roles and acting jobs in my opinion.
Okay.
So my dad brought me up in the faith. Again, he was in ministry before I was born. He had a heart for Christ. Just there were some things he couldn't cut off, that he couldn't stop. But that's good, right? Because people talk where they think, oh, I have to be perfect to know Jesus, or I got to fix myself before I show up in church, right? Yeah.
And you're saying, here's a man who fought for me as best as he could, right? I knew that my dad had problems, and those problems weren't healthy for me or my upbringing, but yet here he was doing the best he could with what he had and planting seeds. taking you to church, showing you the movies, knew that there was a better way, but couldn't shake the addiction. I don't want to say there's grace and mercy that we give our parents, but there should be some grace and mercy when we look at our parents and we don't like the way they raised us, or we're like, oh, well, if this happened to me, that happened to me. If my parents would have done this or that, like, listen, man, I guarantee I could pull some more out of you. But it doesn't matter in terms of pain and sorrow, because we all have some.
Yeah.
But we didn't all have a dad or a mom who, while they were at the same time hurting us, at least trying to get us into church, at least trying to get us to know Jesus, right? I mean, you got baptized, right? I mean, I'm guessing that was your choice. Your dad didn't hold you.
It was more of his choice.
Was it?
I'm a second grader, and I had gone to Catholic school up to that point, and really all the way up through senior of high school, and it's what you did, right? You did a confirmation, you did the classes, and now it's time to get baptized. And I'm sure my heart was in it. I didn't resist it or say I don't want to do this.
Okay.
But I wasn't fully aware of what was going on. I wasn't counting the cost.
Right.
So that second grade, I go through private school. And again, those seeds were there. My father, stockbroker in New York, growing up in the 80s, and high pressure, not a ton of money, inconsistency, moving around from apartment to apartment. We lived in the city when I was young. We lived upstate. We lived on Long Island, in Garden City. We lived in Long Beach, kind of all over in just 7 years. So not a lot of stability as far as putting roots down.
Yeah.
But like I said, prayed every night. Read me Bible stories, showed me Christian movies, the Ten Commandments, the Ben-Hurs, the greatest story ever told.
Yeah.
And those stuck with me. It's probably a big influence on why I love movies so much. But I do remember senior year of high school going to a Kairos retreat, which is something that had started at Bishop Amat.
Okay.
It was a Catholic retreat in the mountains.
Okay.
Probably similar to training camp for high school students. And ironically, it had now made its way to Santa Margarita. So it's only for seniors. So I didn't go at Bishop Amat because I was a junior.
Yeah.
But now as a senior at Santa Margarita, I went on this Kairos retreat. And it really did impact me. It was one of my first mountaintop retreat experiences, probably my first retreat. And this is my senior year of high school, 1999. And I remember being with Dr. Hemingway, who was a principal at Bishop Amat years before. Now he's a principal at Santa Margarita. So really cool how God works. And obviously he knew that I went to Bishop Amat. He probably knew that I was kicked out of school and felt the responsibility to kind of take me under his wing. And I remember finishing one of our baseball games in the spring. I couldn't go in the fall because of football season, but we finished a baseball game in the spring. He drives me up the mountain to this retreat.
Love that.
And then as soon as it ends, he drives me right back because we had another baseball game. And God showed up, and I remember there's something different here. I want more of whatever this is, this Jesus, this faith.
Yeah.
There's more to life than just sports. And that was really a kickstart in my faith journey as a senior in high school. And then a few months later, I had the privilege of being asked to come and now be a leader on that retreat right before graduation. And that was really cool. And still, hadn't laid everything down and gosh, I'm going to walk this thing out, but God was really starting that process of softening my heart.
What changed? So senior, go on retreat, they invite you back to speak. You had to do something different. You had to show them something. You couldn't just speak differently. What can you attribute that to something? Was it a shift in your head knowledge? Was it a shift in your heart? Where was the shift? You said I need to start acting differently. One might say James 1:22, right? When did you just start being a doer?
Well, I think part of it was my influence as a star athlete, quarterback, and baseball player at Santa Margarita, where, hey, Chris went on this retreat. He really liked it. He talks about it. Let's have him come back and be a leader.
Perfect.
I'm sure that was part of it.
Okay.
But I was also open to that, where I could have said, no, I've already gone.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang out and spend this weekend with my family or my girlfriend or do something else.
Yeah.
So God was definitely working on me and tugging my heart to where you need to go back. You need to go deeper. And as we know in leadership, it's different when you're in a leadership role. There's more expected of you. Anyone who's built for that wants to do more, not mail it in, and there's going to be more responsibility, more accountability. And I remember just going a little bit deeper as a leader now, and this is right before I'm going off to Florida State to really start a new life.
Had you already committed to Florida State when you went to that camp up there to speak?
Yes.
Okay, so let's be real. There's a little flesh in marketing in this, right? Here's the star guy, commit, going out. You're a draw, right? But what you said I think is critical. They say if you want to know something, you want to learn it, teach it, because you've got to prep, right? So I'm imagining that's what you were alluding to is you were like, I'm excelling in athletics. And so in order to excel in athletics, repetition, you've got to know the playbook. You've got to know. So I got to imagine there was a little bit of research done as you prepared to go back up there, which brought you a little deeper.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But I also like that you said we keep going back to the heart. I love it. So you said it softened your heart. Could you feel it? Like, could you actually feel yourself go, or you could feel yourself letting people in a little deeper? Like, could you tell the walls were either coming down or separating a little bit for people to get in? Could you feel that then?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. With what I had gone through in that past calendar year of getting kicked out of a high school, having to move from LA County to Orange County, kind of start all over again, make new friends. It was a very emotional year. So God was working on me, and he was softening my heart and using things like these relationships with a Dr. Merritt Hemingway at Santa Margarita, who we had the Bishop Amat tie, and the fact that I come out of football practice a few months earlier during that fall. Actually, it was in the summer. I'd been there maybe a matter of weeks after I had transferred.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, there were some students in the parking lot who had just gotten back from a Bishop Amat / Santa Margarita Kairos kind of preview for the year.
Okay.
Well, who do I see in the parking lot? Anita, my ex-girlfriend from Bishop Amat. We dated for 2 weeks as a freshman, but she was the one who, the girl you let get away.
For sure.
But I wasn't ready for her. And again, after 2 weeks, I told her I loved her. She broke up with me. We're freshmen in high school. The next few years, we remained friends, and we have we're in the same kind of friend group, social group. I date other people. She dates, someone else for the next few years, and all of a sudden God brings us back in a parking lot. Hey, what are you doing here, Anita? Oh, I just got back from this Kairos thing with Dr. Hemingway and the Santa Margarita people.
Yeah.
So you look at that, it's like God was orchestrating something, and just continuing to soften my heart to things of faith, really.
Yeah.
Not just sports or being a student athlete, but continuing to plant those seeds, preparing me for Florida State.
So I want to ask you the question, but I won't. Was there, when you were being recruited by other universities, was there a faith component to any of the recruiting stuff? I won't ask you that question.
Why not? Come on, we're unplugged. We're uncorked here.
No. Like, I got to, because I think it's critical that we don't. We're looking back now. We get to armchair quarterback this, right? And so we get to look back, and as we're talking about the heart, right? And you look back, and it had to speak to you because, come on, QB1, don't you want to go to USC? Let's go fight on, right? You got the Bears right up the road. Like, the flesh, the world, the ego is telling you get to be this guy, right? And yet, I believe, right, because your dad had planted good seeds, because God was orchestrating stuff for you, right? Suddenly, this other coach comes up. Now, there's a little ego stroke. I'm going to be honest with you. Somebody flies across the country and says, I'm coming for you, and I don't ever leave the South.
Right.
My head's about this big. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I wonder how much of when he said there's this faith component to it, how much of that might have actually sparked your heart and said, I can do both.
Yeah. I thought I was going to go to USC or UCLA. Growing up here, at least since my, middle school years, at least being here for a few years, going to those games with my dad, with friends, going on visits there. That's where I thought I was going. Stay in the sunshine. Is it going to be USC? Is it going to be UCLA? And thankfully, I was recruited by both of those schools. But no, there wasn't a faith component in there in that recruiting process. And with Coach Bowden and Mark Richt, it wasn't really my heart. It was my dad's. My dad really loved that they were men of faith.
Yeah.
So, number one, they were the top team in the country. Number two, my dad was always talking about, hey, Florida State, Bobby Bowden, he's a Christian man. Mark Richt, he's a Christian man. Like, that really spoke to my father and, of course, had an influence on me. Yeah. So I could tell that's where he wanted me to go. And when you're getting these handwritten letters from Bobby Bowden, and they're gold stamped with a Florida State Seminole head on there, it's different. Then when you go to the football in the South, it's different.
Yeah,
games at the Coliseum at UCLA for USC are great. Games at the Rose Bowl for UCLA are amazing. And I was thankful to go to a lot of those games. But there's so many other things here in Southern California, right? You've got Hollywood. You've got the music industry. There's so many other things. In the South, football's a religion. It was different when I went to a game there and saw the passion. And you saw, a Seminole Indian on a horse with a flaming spear thrown into the ground. It was different than a Trojan sticking a sword at midfield.
Yes.
But again, it was really where my father, he really wanted me to go there. And surprisingly, it's 3,000 miles away from home,
Yeah.
3,000 miles away from him. Now, while I was very intrigued by that,
Sure.
being on my own,
Yeah.
having my freedom as I thought it would be.
It's an adventure.
Surprising that my dad would want that. But it was the Lord definitely working behind the scenes to take me somewhere to where I couldn't be dependent on my father. I couldn't be dependent on my friends, my girlfriend, where I needed to be dependent on him because it was just me.
Might have taken you to a land that you don't know yet, right?
And it was a land I didn't know. Florida State, it's not Miami. It's not Orlando or Tampa.
It's not Miami,
It's
man.
South Georgia.
Right.
Right. You wouldn't think you're in Florida if you go to Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah. No, that's good. It's interesting because, again, there's something about what you do now with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, how you pour into the youth, right? I watch you with your own sons. But this father-son dynamic, right? And we, look, I say all the time, you have the ability to bless somebody or curse somebody. You don't really have we're doing this.
Right.
And I hope that when we're done here, you feel blessed, not cursed, right?
You either get better or you get worse. You don't say the same.
That's it, right? And so I'm not trying to be the lukewarm water that gets spit out of his mouth, you know what I mean? But for us to, as we keep walking down this trail with your dad, a lot of people will get hung up. I would say a lot of people today are hung up with stuff that was out of their control. My dad did this to me. My mom did this to me. I should have had this. I deserved better. Why didn't they? How come, right?
Victim mentality.
Victim mentality. All the whamboos, right? All the victims.
I was in it for a long time.
I'm sure you were.
Yeah.
Look, some people might say rightfully so. But what I love is that even at every turning point, major turning point, your dad was fighting for you to know Jesus. Now, I got Catholic jokes all day long, but they're only bad jokes, right? But even then, he's still fighting for your heart when he could have had his own ego stroke. In Southern California, my son's a quarterback over at USC, right?
Sure.
But instead, he said, man of faith. Go to where the faith is. Go to where the faith is, right? And you had that. You said it. You had a victim mentality for a little bit, and yet looking back, your dad was fighting the fight, right? He was fighting the fight for your heart. He might have been wounded in it at the same time, but he saw further down the field than you did.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. And I wish my dad would have fought more for himself, and he did a lot. Looking back, I wish he would have fought some more of those battles on him for himself. But yes, he fought a lot for me, wanted the best for me, and that's why you heard me say it at his funeral as memorial service, which I'm always grateful for you being at.
Yeah.
That the heart of the matter was a matter of the heart, and I believe, maybe not every time, but most of the time, that his heart was in the right place. And that's why there's things that my father did, which I'm going to build on and do differently for my boys, as I already have as being a father for the past 13 years. But there's also a lot of things that I have taken and have adopted and have done with my children.
Yeah.
So, as always, we want our kids to have better than we have, right? Any good parent wants that.
Yep.
And there's a lot of things that I have done differently and will do differently that my father did.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of things that I've taken from him that I do with my children that I will continue to do with them.
That's a cool perspective to be able to look back and say, okay, I know that I used to have the victim mentality. I don't want to have it anymore. I'm now raising boys, right? And I know that there are, I tell my kids all the time, you got to be better than me in all things. If you're just equal to me, you fell short. Like, I'm the new floor, right? You got to get better. And I think they've done that. I think my son's, he's 19 now, he's almost 19, and he's trying to, he's in that stage, right? Like, where am I and how am I going to impact the world? He's an athlete, water polo player, and so he's navigating that as well, wears and lives out his faith well, but he'll tell you where I hurt him, right? He'll tell you where I got him. And so the goal is always now, I'm sorry, how do we get you to get better from that, right? How do we stop you from doing that to your kids? Which is interesting. When Trevor turned 12, from 12 to 13, it was the most scared I've ever been. I didn't know how to parent 13 on. My dad, we all got a sad story, right? My mom and dad are still married. I love the old guy. He's one of the most contentious, angry, bitter men I've ever met in my life, right? Wants to be joyful. And honestly, he's one of the most poetic, romantic dudes. Like, I think the purity of my dad is probably writing poetry, singing songs, telling love stories, and it just comes out angry, right? And so knowing that about myself, I've tried to navigate it, but he got hurt on the job. Arizona's the right to work state. If you get hurt, sorry about your luck, get better. And he tried to work, but he physically, he got wrecked, right? Sandwiched between a forklift with a load of lumber and a truck. Like, the fact that he didn't get cut in half and die on the scene was only by the grace of a Goodyear tire that was imprinted on his inner thigh for a while, right? I'm just kidding, got it. That was him. But I lost him then, right? So even though I might have not appreciated him when I was younger, he was there, right? So even if I didn't like his answers or I didn't like his approach, I knew I could at least get to him, right? But I couldn't get to him anymore. And so there were no what do I do when Trevor turns 13 stories. Pre-13, I could say, right, hey, my dad did this wrong, I'm going to shift fire here. Hey, he did that right, I'm going to build on it.
Yeah.
13 hit, and I knew it was coming. I was terrified. I had no idea how to engage. Because from about that age on, I had to start figuring out how to do it on my own.
You didn't have access to the Father anymore.
No, and he wasn't Christmas and Easter's, right? There was no, hey, even though I'm jacked up, I'm still going to try to get you baptized. I'm still going to try. There was nada, right? Mom's going to work to try to keep the lights on. Dad can't work. It was a mess. Have you hit that point yet with the boys? Like, have you felt that internal feeling yet? Like, whew, or did you still have them pushing you through high school, so you still got some left and right boundaries how to work on your dad, or are you starting to realize as Luke gets older and hits that teenage years, are you starting to feel the inner uh-ohs? I don't know how to navigate this or navigate that well, or do you still have stories from your dad to draw on?
You know, I think I still have stories of dad to draw on, and Luke just turned 13 a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, and he's a young 13. He's such a sensitive boy. I think he's going to be our future, pastor, worship leader. He already has such a minister's and servant heart, and that's why he may not be the top of his class athletically, but I'm just so darn proud of that boy. And Anita and I just talked about how proud we are of him because of his heart. And he's a sharp kid.
Yeah.
But it's really his heart that stands out. God gave him such an amazing heart, as I believe he did with all of our kids. But
Sure.
I always talk to Luke and I just say, son, you've got a great heart, man.
Yeah.
Like, don't lose that. Like, hold on to that.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest qualities we see him in as a young 13-year-old.
But it's good.
Yeah.
Right? The heart is good. And it's what takes the most damage. Right? A lot of people, I still think, try to anchor behavior modification, laws, sort of the structure with man has a bad heart. The heart is evil, right? And they quote the Old Testament. And then we quote the New Testament, and in you I will place a new heart, right? I would say that where's the Holy Spirit and where does Christ dwell within us? In the heart.
Yeah.
Right? Why does Proverbs say, guard your heart above all else? Right? For it is the wellspring of life.
Yeah.
Well, if the wellspring of life is Christ, then of course we got to guard the heart. And where do the arrows come? Right at the heart. Right? It's interesting.
A lot of times from those who love us most or who are nearest and dearest to us.
Yeah.
If we get an arrow from someone we don't care about and it's not our friend, it may hurt a little bit, but it's gonna hit us and fall right off.
Sure.
Right? If it's someone that we love and we're close to, it's gonna stick in there, and it's not always easy to take out.
The old story, or not story, I heard a saying that the devil will use those closest to us to do the things to us he can't do.
Yeah.
But likewise, he will use us to hurt other people that he can't get to.
Yes.
Right? And when I started to realize what that was, and I would hear things come out of my mouth and realize the pain I was causing, I would realize that it took me a while to figure it out. But I was like, I literally just executed well on behalf of Satan. What a horrible realization, right? And I would watch people hurt, and I'm like, oh, right? In the moment where I should have fought well, instead I gave over to the devil, anger, rage, sadness, right? Whatever I was, and just threw that, bless him or curse him. And when you realize that you get ran by the devil, man, it hurts the heart a little bit.
Yeah.
I love the description of the heart, or the idea of it, right? And I think it's why you and I were talking, I don't know, we were breaking bread somewhere, and I said, Chris, I can feel it in you. Like, you're ready to go. It is, look, having a cool pedigree is fun, right? I wanted to invade Iraq because I wanted my kids to read the history books and be like, yep, my dad did that, right?
Right.
Like forever now,
Yeah.
in Marine Corps history and in U.S. history, right, world history, they'll be like, yeah, I did that.
I can't take that from you.
Can't take
right?
that from you, right?
Yep.
So same thing, Florida State, 3 national championships, right? Get recruited in the NFL. Having a
Conference
cool,
championships.
Conference championship, sorry, buddy. Understanding that pedigree is fun. Mm-hmm. And I would talk about, I like to go after the warrior heart of a man, right? Mm-hmm. That we all have a warrior heart. And I met you and I was like, Chris, there's something going on with you. Like, well, I can feel you want out. Like you're ready to go. And you pulled up your phone and you showed me a photograph. And what was it?
It was a graphic I had made,
Yeah.
The Heart of a Champion.
The heart of a champion. Mm-hmm. I don't know, right, how you have a warrior heart and you're not a champion. And I don't know how you earn a championship heart without having a warrior heart. Mm-hmm. Because as you and I talked about, we didn't get baptized, we didn't come to know Jesus, and all of a sudden it was sunshine and rainbows. Mm-hmm. In fact, one might argue that's when our eyes should have been opened to the battle that is being a Christ follower.
Right.
I love it. So let's do this again.
Yeah.
The heart of a champion.
Yeah. And really where I think it comes from, and we're talking a little bit about it, is trauma. You know?
Ooh. Tell me more.
Well, as I coach now, I remind our students, our players, I remind my boys, I remind myself. I say this at least once a month, if not more. Everybody gets knocked down.
Yeah.
But only champions get back up. And it's hard, I think, to have the heart of a champion if everything's been handed to you.
Yes.
If it's been easy. It's hard to be a warrior if you haven't been in a war.
Right.
What do they say? You can't have a testimony without a test.
Without a test.
So I step outside and I look at my life. Well, where did I get that heart from? It's from my Heavenly Father. He created me. He made me, right?
Yeah.
And He had to have built me for battle because I've been through some battles.
Yeah.
My parents, early on, separation, foster home, had to get back up, had to go back to one of my parents and had to keep on living, even at times where I wasn't sure I wanted to live.
Yeah.
Mom passes away, get knocked down, have to get back up. All right. Middle school, get bullied at times, even as an athlete, not hanging out with the popular crowd.
Yeah.
The enemy comes after you, even as an early middle school student athlete, got knocked down, went into a depression, had to get back up. Go into high school, date the beautiful freshman head cheerleader.
Sure.
Get broken up, get knocked down.
Yeah.
Had to get back up.
Hey, I like the way you said that. Get broken up instead of got dumped. But that's all right. I wasn't going to flick you in the wound.
Yeah. Either way.
It's terrible. Sorry
about that. A few years later, taking shortcuts in the classroom. Man. Again and again. Because I don't humble myself. God not only humbles me, He humiliates me.
Yeah.
And I get kicked out of a school I've been in for 3 years. Have to leave my teammates. My girlfriend at the time, talked about having your world rocked. And got knocked down. Had to get back up. Had to go back, and get back in school, new friends, new place. And had to go back and visit my girlfriend and my friends, which was very hard. I let a lot of people down.
Yeah. You had inflicted some wounds in other people's hearts.
Exactly. Don't have a great senior season, in a new place, still going through a lot mentally and emotionally. Separate my shoulder halfway through the season. Don't have great numbers. Thankfully, I was already committed to Florida State, but still some depression. Got knocked out, had to get back up. Couldn't wait to graduate to go to Florida State and have a new start. Hit the reset button. Get away from everything and have that fresh start.
Yeah.
Have a fun freshman year. I'm redshirting. The quarterback had just led them to a national title. He's on a Heisman campaign, Chris Winkie. Ends up winning the Heisman that year. But I'm a redshirt. I'm practicing. I'm traveling. I'm having fun. And my struggle was never drugs or alcohol because I saw how it affected my dad.
Yeah.
But mine was with girls. It was in relationships I should not have been in.
Yep.
And finding number one, being a freshman football player, in college, but also having a void inside,
Sure.
a void that was gone for many years from my mother. I didn't have that motherly figure in my life. And part of that was also filling that, just living a life of sin my freshman year, engaged in relationships I shouldn't have been in. And at the end of my freshman year, I remember waking up and thinking, is this all life's about? Football and girls and hanging with the guys. is this it? Because I still felt empty. There was still a big void in my life.
Yeah.
And right around that time, you got Bobby Bowden telling me about FCA. You have Pastor Ron telling me about this church, about this group, Champions for Christ, where these athletes come and hear the word and go deeper in discipleship. And I remember it after my freshman year, they say, we're going to this conference in Tennessee. You know, it's going to be hot, and it's when you get back from California after your summer break, we're getting ready to start the football season, but we're going on this retreat, and we're driving there. And I didn't want to go, but God had other plans. Yeah. And that's where on this retreat, God showed up. And
it was an FCA retreat?
It was a Champions for Christ, Every Nation Church retreat in Bethel, Tennessee.
Okay.
And that was where I just got on my knees and I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to just be a hypocritical Catholic or Christian. And God just really got a hold of my heart and got baptized in the Holy Spirit.
There it is.
Got made the choice that time to get baptized on my own.
Yep.
And yes, my heart had a big change. It wasn't just behavior modification. It was really heart transformation.
100%.
I'll remember that August of 2021, nearly 21 years, 2001, nearly 21 years ago. I remember that like it was yesterday. But it wasn't, everything's changed overnight and everything was easy. No. It was hard. It was a process.
Well, yeah, because then you got to start training.
Yes.
Right? See, all you just did was say, hi, I'd like to show up and root for you. Right? And then he says, hey, in the kingdom, there's a way things work. Welcome to training for reigning the rest of it, right? You know, it's funny. I don't care if you're a man or if you're a kid, right? We love our youth. You're out here with FCA, but you were telling just some of it, some of the story. And in my head, I just kept hearing that this is the reality of when you hear pastors or preachers say, you were created for a reason, hand-stitched in your mother's womb, and you're 14 going, what are you talking about? I'm not created for anything, right? The world right now tells me I can be a furry, I can be this. What do you mean I was created for something, right? And yet, here you were, groomed by God, right? Maybe battle-tested by the devil early, maybe battle-tested by God early, and you said, but the heart of a champion, I just had to keep getting up. And you didn't even know why. You're 7, you're 8, you're 9, right? But the world, right, the flesh, I mean, think about what you said, depression, sorrow, right? Wanted to end my own life, right? Suicide. So you start looking at all of these spirits, right? We know that, we say the scriptures, the devil was hurled to earth and a third of his angels went with him. Well, how many is that?
Right.
We don't know, right? But their entire job is to wreck you and prevent you from being who God created you to be.
That's right.
And so if God knew who you were supposed to be, fully alive, fully operational for the kingdom, it wasn't football. It was, right? Now, he might have said, hey man, here's a shiny object to get people's attention and then bring them to Jesus, right? But he literally was building you this entire time, and the devil knew it, and he just came, and he came, and he came. And so to be able to say, hey, young men and women, hey, old men and women, right? You have an enemy, and he will, unrelenting, he will come for you. He will take your mother, he will abuse you. He will abuse your family. He'll cause you to hurt other people. So then you throw guilt and shame, more things from the devils on you. Yeah. But you just keep getting up and going. And as you started to, God was like, I'm right here, Chris. And you can look back now. The cool thing is how do we get kids to realize at 10, 11, 8, 13, 14 and say, okay, I feel this way, but that's from the devil.
Right.
Okay, God, what's the opposite of that, right? So if the fruit of the Spirit, we list those off. So how do I cut out depression and fill it with joy? How do I cut off addiction and fill it with goodness, right? What needs to be pruned?
Right.
And then the Holy Spirit can give you some of the fruit of that Spirit, right? So no, it's an interesting thought for young people. Not just look, we could grab a lot of people, but we have elevated athletes in our society. Right? We have idolized them. Right. I mean, God says, don't have any false idols because he'll take them, right? And so as we idolize these figures, then we wonder why they're falling. Well, what happened to the good character athletes? Well, we don't develop character anymore. We develop athletes, right?
Yeah.
What if you were on the last cusp of character development that looked like a football player? right? Now you get to go back and say, hey, young people, character development. And it starts in the heart because that's where the devil's coming for you.
Yeah.
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 So
And that's, again, it's trauma, it's getting knocked down and having to get back up. Look at any great athlete or anyone who's accomplished anything. Look at all the greatest stories and people that God has used in the Bible. They've all gone through tests. They've all had trials. A lot of them have had, trauma, but they've had to get back up. I mean, look at the greatest example of all time in Jesus Christ. He's beaten. He's humiliated. He's got to carry a cross. He's knocked down. He's beat down. But what was the end goal? It was victory.
Yeah.
So anytime I get knocked down, and anytime anyone gets knocked, they have a choice. They can stay down there, which a lot of people do. They don't get back up.
Yep.
Or they can get back up and fight.
Yeah.
During my time at Florida State, I overslept. I missed an exam, and I was ineligible for a BCS bowl game. It was one of the hardest things my sophomore year, and there's a whole story behind that. But at the end of the day, I was not fulfilling my responsibility and something I knew I needed to do. And again, it was God getting my attention. It was God humbling me, and I look at it now, it was God humiliating me.
Yeah.
So I had a chance to learn from that, and it didn't happen again. But when I came home, I remember at times thinking, I didn't want to, there was thoughts, I don't want to go back to Florida State.
Wow.
I want to stay here. I'm going to transfer to USC, transfer to UCLA. I'm going to stay home because I had to come home and watch that bowl game with Anita at her house. It was one of the hardest things. I'm watching my teammates, and I'm watching a national BCS bowl game, the Sugar Bowl, in a game I should be playing in 2 weeks or a month after I just led our team to beat the Florida Gators, our number one rival. But staying home, that would have been folding. That would have been laying down.
For sure.
It wouldn't have been getting up and fighting. I had to go back and I had to face the music, and it was very hard. Teammates, media, coaches, fans.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful I did because I finished my career there. I got my degree.
Yeah.
I helped lead our team to a bowl victory in my last game before going on and spending time with the San Diego Chargers. But again, everyone gets knocked down. Only champions get back up. And that's a big part of where the heart of a champion was birthed, because of what I've been through and what I've seen a lot of other people get through. And to be a champion, to get a ring, you have to get knocked down. I think there's only been one team, let's just say the NFL, that went undefeated.
Sure.
And that was the Dolphins in like the 70s.
Yep.
You know, every other team that have a ring has lost. They've been knocked down. They've had adversity. They've had to fight back. And that's what makes it even more rewarding when you do that, because you know the trial, you know the journey, you know the trauma a lot of times that you had to go through mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, relationally, and sometimes even spiritually.
Yeah, I would argue probably that one the most, right? Mm-hmm. So, the heart of a champion. We're going to come back and talk about it some more.
Awesome.
You good with that?
Awesome.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, Ryan. Thanks, man.